to bookend the back half of week 7 of season 3 of the WTRL Zwift Racing League. I'm Kate Bates. I'm joined by the one and only Dave Toll. Dave, always a pleasure to see your happy face. We've got the Magnificent 8 today. What do you think about that one?
I love this course, and Kate, right back at you. Always a pleasure. We have so much fun on this broadcast, so I look forward to it every week. So I think that if there was some kind of worldwide clampdown on team time trial courses and they said you can only have one to race on, this might not be a bad choice. This really delivers everything you're looking for. No extra, no less, just right there for you. 29K finds a worthy team. Also, the racing's super close. I don't know how it went in APAC. We'll have to hear about that. But from Premier and what we saw earlier in America's East, it was right down to the wire.
Yeah, it was across the board, EMEA and APAC as well. We had some really incredibly tight races and some that changed quite significantly actually throughout the course. Let's take a quick look at the map, because even though it's a pretty friendly course, it's not too remarkable in terms of any features. We do have a few little lumps. So, Dave, the reverse KOM is probably the most notable in that first half.
100%. And, Kate, the thing is, just make sure your team is together when you go over the top of that climb. And don't waste your resources trying to cobble the team back together. Just get right to it, because this is a long, flat section that you're on right here as you go through Fuego Flats.
Yeah, it's just shy of 30 kilometres. And some of the teams have been going near the 40-minute mark, between kind of 40 and 50 minutes generally. So it is, they're not taking any prisoners out there. Every team is absolutely racing full on. We have had a few frights over that first KOM, a couple of teams that have looked like perhaps they're going to splinter early, but inevitably it's come back together. And all in all, I mean, we are in season 3, we are in week 7, and of course there's the weekly WTRL teams time trials that are going on. There's been more than 100 of them. It feels like the teams are figuring out how to do this, and aside from a few overtaking issues, which we can discuss when they're out on course with what we saw in EMEA, it looked like pretty textbook execution of some strategies.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, Kate. So this makes it look like you're doing multiple laps out here. You only have to do one, but it's a monster lap, that's for sure. There was another sector there. Nathan pointed this. Can you imagine if you had to do 3 laps in team time trial formation? I guess you would get pretty close to 100K, but this was not what the Olympics or World Championships were looking for. As a matter of fact, Kate, you're probably not quite old enough to remember the days when team time trials were a big part of the Olympics, the Olympic movement and World Championships. It was a blue ribbon event. It was one of the 10 most popular events that you would see at the games, but it was required, obviously, so much infrastructure and equipment, and there just weren't enough nations that were like none of the Asian or African nations were doing this. And that made it really hard to justify in the Olympic movement. But because of WTRL, and I tell you, Martin and Steven, they should feel tremendous pride for this, because they brought team time trialing back to life. It's funny you say teams time trial, and sometimes I change back and forth with it. I don't think it matters really which way you say it. Certainly you know what we're talking about, but it is interesting as you wonder how you pluralize. It's like saying my mailbox or my mail's box, right? That kind of thing. But anyways, that
good example.
Yes. So we're going to take a look at our standings here, though. That's a good place to move into a next phase, as we'll be jumping in with our racers in just a moment here. But let's see where we stand at this point.
Well, we might get that, if I can request producer, if we can get them up while we start the racing, Dave, because I'm itching to get down there. We've got the Women's Division 1C, we've got the Men's Division 2C, and we've got the Men's Division 1D. So we're actually covering quite a lot tonight, which is fantastic. So we'll bring up the standings now if we can, Nathan, and we'll take a look at those, because we discussed it at length with both Nathan and Anna in the earlier leagues, Dave. There's some really competing missions going on out there. There's some teams wanting to be promoted up. There's some teams wanting to prevent themselves being demoted back down. And there's some who are just trying to hold their spot overall. So with the A's, we've got the Velocity Vixen, and we are not looking at the A's at the moment. We're looking at the C's, but just the standings. Velocity Vixen on 118, Audi Women on 114, San Diego Bicycle Club A, they're sitting there in third, and then Revo haven't been able to field a team yet this season. A lot of people have a lot going on, especially with vaccination programs, and a lot of our riders being healthcare professionals, Dave, so a bit of a multitask. But I'll throw it over to the Bees. We watched them last week, and it was pretty good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, on screen, you're seeing the C's, and we will try to keep you up to speed at who we're in with. It's one of the things we've been really working hard at, is trying to feature and show as many teams and racers as we can. So Nathan, our producer, just does a great job. So this then now is our B's. We were with them, as you said, Kate. It was a lot of fun. Dutch Diesel cycling at Zenith. Oh, you know, Kate, really quickly, I wanted to go back. Anna Russell did a tremendous job with an interview with Laura Perry from Agawatt team on the most recent World of Zwift. Anna was speaking with her about their team and their place. And I think it's more than fair to say that there's quite a few teams that aren't looking to move up or move down. They love racing in this time slot. They love racing against these women. They like it just the way it is. And so for that reason, not every team is out here fighting to move up, if that makes sense. They're fighting to do the best they can. And it's all sort of, the forest for the trees, right, Kate? You know, you have to look at, why am I racing? And for a lot of these women, there's a social element. There's a getting the best out of yourself. And obviously, as they say, the high tide lifts all boats. And these women make each other better. And the men, too, but in this case, women.
I love that saying, the high tide lifts all boats. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. There's a couple of messages came through to Nathan from one of the teams saying that we're a D category team, accidentally put in the C category. And we said, well, no, that's because you've improved. And you've been
I thought you were
moved
talking
up
about you and
because
I.
you're all good enough.
I thought you were talking about you and I.
I feel like I'm accidentally in the wrong category most times I ride on Zwift. I've got to say that much. But I do think that there's a lot of riders who are quite shocked when their classification changes, because that's not necessarily what they're out there for.
I completely agree. So let me just run through these really quickly, because you can see that this is going to be interesting, especially for the Cryogen Mount Evans and Madcap Meerkats. There's a couple Meerkat squads out here. This is mischievous that we have, and I hear some ride-ons being thrown. I love that. So we'll check in and meet the women of this team. But in third place, just 2 points behind Cryogen Mount Evans, is Herd of Madcap Meerkats. Cadence in fourth, ATP Racing Vespid in fifth right now. This is after 6 of 8 races in season 3. Alto Velo Tunitas in 6th, Wadi Inc. Ice Cat 7th, Revo Musketeers in 8th, and then San Diego Bicycle Club Bees there in 9th. So, Kate, that's a look at how things stand for the Bees. And I think the next graphic is going to show you the women that are out here racing right now. I saw Eric on Zwift Insider call this the dirty sorpresa. I love that. And it's certainly appropriate. I'll throw it back to you, Kate.
That.
Yeah, right? I thought
like
you would.
That. Yeah. I mean, Anna and I discussed how we felt that they really needed to have a Zwift virtual Strada Bianchi, like how cool it would be to actually have a full dirt race that isn't just a lap around the jungle. That'd be pretty cool. Let's take a look at the standings here, because we are actually watching this category. So we've got the Herd of Misfit Meerkats. There's a lot of meerkats going around, so we have to make sure we catch the right ones. GSZ Queen Bee Coalition, 10 points adrift. So everybody's fairly comfortable up the top there, but sitting in third, tied, we have the Fearlets and the KRTC Lightning Strikes. So depending on what happens this week, it might be very interesting racing in Surrey Hills next week to see who can sneak onto that podium, because the mischievous Meerkats that we're looking at the moment, they're only 2 points back, again from the Fearlets and the Lightning Strike. So quite a tight race there. Wadi Inc., they're bringing up 6th place at the moment. So there's not a huge amount of teams in these divisions, but they're all super competitive. And if we've learnt anything over these 3 seasons, it's that it's absolutely about quality, not quantity. and we've seen some of the best racing. There we go. Which kind of meerkat do you think
Nathan.
that is, Dave? Do you think that's a
Uh,
mischievous one or a misfit
uh,
or
it looks a lot. That looks more than just mischievous to me. That looks
oh, there they
really
are.
mad. See, that's their normal. I don't know what was going
Yeah,
on
look
with
at
that
those two
angry one.
cuddling down the bottom. That's pretty cute.
Hugging. They're
That's it.
hugging. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't know. Nathan found the angriest meerkat on the planet there. This guy, he must be being
Oh,
attacked. Or you know what? Someone
yeah.
threatened us. That's not a meerkat. That looks like a some kind of rodent.
It's a maybe it's a before and after, Dave. It's like those cute ones are what the team look like on the start line, and
Yeah,
that cranky looking one is what happens on the
there's
back
that
end of that.
Kate. There's that meme that how it started and where we are now. Right. So you started with the friendly hugging meerkats, and then you end up with the screaming, uh, bloodthirsty meerkat. So, all right, hey, um, that was a good look at how all of our teams stand after 6 races. Um, I certainly we're going to start trying to bring in splits if we can, and I'm going to guess that the machine at the Zwift data center is probably cooled down enough. Tuesdays they run that guy hot, Kate. Not always easy squeezing out the data. Let me run through all of the meerkats, though, the mischievous version I'll start with. So I might cross over a little bit because we have the misfit meerkats as well. But I do know that Sarah Norris is one of our the mischievous, I should say. I also have Selena Faulkner. She's a mischievous meerkat. Carrie McBride and Brenda Bilatis. And, oh, Aileen Little, also one of the Canadians, along with Celine and Christine. But Christine is on the Misfit Meerkats. Might as well shout them out right now, as well as Junius Ho, Marcy Varley, Patsy Martin, all racing with us tonight in the Zwift community. Great to have you all.
It is unreal. We've seen with some of the A's and B's over the last couple of weeks, Dave. Who could forget the Gontova situation when
Oh
Nadia
boy,
Gontova just showed us,
I did some
pretty much
research.
schooled everybody on how to race. Oh, I'd like to hear about that actually. But what I was going to say with the C's is that I feel like every time we go to a new category, we're like, oh wow, this is really good racing. And then we see another one and we're like, oh, wait, wow, this is really good racing. So it doesn't really matter who we're watching. We're getting the same kind of stars stepping up and consistency, which is really cool.
Hey, Kate, this is really good racing that we've got right now. Tie there on the leaderboard as the Meerkats
Oh,
as the lightning strikes at 10:54. And this team, Mischievous, looks solid as a rock right now. Solid as Ayers Rock. Or what do they call Ayers Rock now? They renamed that, didn't they?
Uluru.
Right. Solid as
Yeah,
Uluru
Uluru.
out here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Exactly. Yes,
the
we don't
center of the.
climb it anymore.
Oh, really? Because it's a
No, no.
religious safety?
Yeah, it's sacred to our indigenous population,
Right.
and they didn't really love that people were
People are
tramping up and
scrambling
down
on
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's been a very positive move to have that, and it even reinforces more the solid as a rock because Ullaru's not going anywhere and nobody's going on it, so it's that
I
beacon in the
like
middle
it.
of the desert.
Don't they perceive that as the center of the universe? Isn't that wow? That was nice, Nathan. That's some
Yeah,
real professional producing as we go
Nathan's on
to the
fire
lightning
today,
strikes.
isn't he? With the
Well,
with all these
next
little
level. I mean,
inserts. I feel like he's getting toward the end of the season, and he's like, it's time to have some fun now.
it feels like, and he's been given like more tools to work with or something. It's just awesome the producing that we've been enjoying. Thank you so much, Nathan. So yeah, that lightning strike there is going to be KRT. Let's jump in and take a look at the KISS racing team. This is AJ Brecke, Katie Levy, Kristen Mosden. And again, they've got the fastest time there at that first check. So I didn't quite get
This is what
Holocut
you
also.
mentioned this early, Dave, when we were looking at the course. You were like, you do not want to go over solo, so they do need to look after each other. Levi, she just accelerated across like an absolute boss there to get back in the
Yikes.
draft. It's not too much of a drama if they go over in pairs, if they can then temper it on the other side and get back together quite quickly. But it can be an issue if the riders at the front don't back off the power when they hit the top, because that can open a lot of
You
gaps. So
don't
they do
want them.
need to be just careful here.
Yeah, it's just coming back together, Kate, so the timing is good. You're 100% correct, though. The worst situation is you go over the top, you start to accelerate, and you force them to keep chasing you, as that's where you're really working against yourself out there. So this is great. They in the last 30 seconds, we've watched them bring the whole thing. This is what we call that welding it back together here. A little bit different. They're not chasing back a breakaway or closing down a gap in a peloton, just getting the team back together, and they did it in the nick of time.
They did. So we've got only five riders on course for the KT Lightning Strikes, but I have a feeling 5 might be enough based on their current speed. We've got AJ Breck, Shauna Ryan, Katie Levy, Kristen Mosden, and Wendy Collicutt. With 5, it's a little bit more difficult than 6, but if 5 are working together really well, they will beat 6 disorganised riders any day. So interesting, the next split time, which is just before the halfway mark, will tell a lot about the pacing strategies of the Meerkats and the Lightning Strikes. But they do have the advantage, Dave, after they're going at the end of all the geographical regions. So they could have watched APAC through EMEA and even Prem League and figured out a pacing strategy through these different segments with their eyes more wide open than if it was their first time out there. So I think that they're informed and they should be able to kind of set a strategy and just ride to it.
Hino smoked it today in the Premier League as it was touch and go to see if the teams are going to break. We have raced on this course before, folks. It was season 1. It was the first ever team time trial, actually. Season 1, race 2. As here we now are at the end of season 3, and it's back in play here. That time for the top women is down in the mid 39s now, about 39:30.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's something else, no doubt about it. And I also got to give you a shout out today because the term smoky came up, and of course I had to credit you where I learned that. So, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Kate, she's the best." Yep. So, taking a look here, 29K out here today, and at this point, they've gone through probably the most challenging sector, the reverse KOM. Once you're through that, you make your way through out onto Fuego Flats, and it's a lot of flat miles out there.
There's been a lot of chat about the draft effect and how that's changed a little bit, how riders behind you can kind of bump you off a wheel and out to the side if they're not careful. So it's been a little bit interesting watching teams grapple with that a bit. I've certainly noticed it in bunch rides, and a lot of people have been bringing it up too, that they became quite accustomed to the Zwift draft, how it used to be, and the changes have meant they've had to kind of recalibrate a little bit. We've also kind of seen a bit of a trend where the more experienced Zwift teams, the difference is quite stark. They're really emerging as race leaders just with the skills experience. So forgetting that I was waiting for that. That was a good one, Nathan. We've got Buzzy Bees for the Queen Bees. Yeah, they do. Their kit does look cool. I'm not sure Anna would approve of the pink socks, but we can send that one over to her. Oh, but I do like these yellow shoes. Look at this, the yellow shoes and the black socks. They look pretty funky.
It's funny, for those that don't know, they're like Man, this Anna is a tough one, isn't she? You
I
know,
know,
I mean,
I know.
every time you hear about Anna, so Anna, just for those of you that are joining us who don't know, is a colleague. She works with Kate and Nathan. I've never had a chance to broadcast with Anna, but I'm a big fan. I think she's wonderful. Really enjoy her work. She's super smart. We joke about her whiteboard because she is analytical, to say the least. And also, like any good New Zealander, is highly opinionated, I would say. I mean, and I love every bit of it, right? But there's not a lot of things that Anna doesn't have an opinion on. Is that fair, Kate?
That's true. Yeah, she does. She weighs in on pretty much everything,
Yeah, yeah,
in a
more or less,
delightfully
right?
non-offensive way, I might add, which is
No,
also a
not at all.
delightful feature.
Right. It's
But it is quite
extremely
funny.
enjoyable. Yes,
Are we seeing an overtake here? I'm just yeah, the
that's amazing.
Misfits are doing an overtake here. Now, I will hark back to EMEA for a second, Dave, because Nathan and I were commentating quite an interesting situation where we ended up with three teams all up in each other's business, kind of getting cranky on the public chat, like drop back, you're lazy, what are you doing? But
Pull
it was coming
through.
toward
Yeah.
yeah, but it was coming toward the end, and so it was like, whose responsibility is it at this point to get out of the way versus push past? And something has very clearly emerged, and that is that the women seem to be a little bit softer and friendlier when it comes to
More
overtakes. The
diplomatic, I
fellas
think.
get a little bit feistier. Yeah, diplomatic, I think, is a good word. You tend to have thank yous and little waves as you
So
go past, but the men
so
less.
Kate, there's this thing called testosterone, right? And it
Is
it
this
seems
like
to
my
have an
grade
effect on
school lesson for today?
So, how many times in your life, and my heart goes out to every woman who rides bikes out there, the syndrome of uh, woman passing guy on
Oh,
road or bike
yes.
path, and response from guy will tell you you can learn a lot about a person in three different places: how they handle lost luggage at the airport, how they handle tangled
Oh,
Christmas lights, and how they handle getting passed by a woman on a bike. If you
yeah.
want to learn about
That
a man,
actually sounds
watch them in.
like a bit of a dating checklist. I think you could copyright that, Dave.
That's a good for my book.
Like
Yeah,
it's like he seems really nice, but what would he do if you passed him on a bike? I mean, I've had some funny
that
ones where I've
monster
gone
would have.
past a fella and they've chased to catch me to let me know that they think my seat's too high,
That's
or
perfect.
something like that. It's always
Doesn't
like,
that say
thank
it all?
you for
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I appreciate your input. On your way now.
I appreciate the input. Right, Kate, that is classic. And I mean, you hear it all the time of like, yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. You're an Olympian and a world champion. And this guy, you know what? That's life, I guess. You shrug it off. That's for sure. Um, but for all the guys out there, something to keep in mind, I think, you
Yeah,
know?
something to keep in mind. I'd
Yeah.
love to let Kristen Kolchinsky loose on a couple of these
Dudes.
fellas on the bike paths.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if they came across her, they may get a little bit scared. She's a weapon.
Well, I got to tell you,
She's
I'm
incredible.
pulling.
If you follow her on social media, it's a lot of fun, Dave. She's a cracker.
I agree. I'm pulling for. She's a friend of Zwift Community Live for sure. She's just really spirited, and I have to say that she had a heartbreaker today, Kate, and she is going to be hard to beat in Surrey Hills next week. As she's moving, I guess, in New York, and getting the internet set up is can be
Ooh.
tricky. These racers are so reliant upon that. If you don't do this, you start to realize that there's a few key bits of equipment and attention to detail that's required to race on Zwift. So her internet crapped out on her, and she missed the race today, and she was
Oh,
upset.
she would
The
have
team
been
was upset.
cranky at that. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
she
it's
was not
we
happy.
saw
Yeah.
also in EMEA, the Italian team, it looked like they'd gone mountain biking because there was obviously some connectivity issues for them. You know, when Zwift kind of goes searching for where you might be to try and
Oh no.
put the pieces together while it's waiting for you to reconnect. And so we saw them
Right.
going up and over the verges. I mean, it looked quite pretty, but possibly a little bit frustrating for the riders. just trying to finish off their team's time trial.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Nathan does these. He races these, and that gives you such a unique perspective to it. There is such a unique bond amongst these team members here as we're in with McLean right now. Also learned this week that we'd been mispronouncing Beth McGeever's name for the last 2 seasons, so we finally got up to speed on that. She's another. She was in that breakaway with Kolchinski actually a couple of weeks ago. There, two of the top women's racers. So you live and you learn. So McLean here, the Canadian of the Queen Bee Coalition. Nathan has gotten me twice. One, so here in Colorado, we've had some lightning going on, so I thought that was real lightning. And then when the bees came in, I thought that my Zoom recorder thing was on the fritz. So it's some really good producing.
Well,
He's keeping me
look,
on my toes.
I've got a dog outside. It's not my dog, it's the neighbour's dog. And the number of times on calls people ask me what kind of dog I have.
Who's that
quite
guy?
Remarkable.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm punking everyone with the neighbour's dog. Yes. Alas, there aren't any teams with... Oh, no, we had some Vizslas in EMEA, but they're Hungarian dogs. They're quite beautiful, larger dogs, not
They're
quite
great.
like the little yappy one I've got next door. But, still a dog sound would be appropriate. I could try and arrange that.
We'll see what we can do. What sound would a street punk make? I guess it'd be like, "Yo, what's up?" I don't know. Street punk for Waddy Inc. There, I don't know what Nathan's gonna do for that.
Are you wearing your cap backwards or something, Dave? Can we have you got a bit of bling around your neck?
Right.
Can you punk into shot or something?
You know what? I should get some makeup and give myself a black eye or something.
Yeah, right. This sounds like it could be quite an interactive broadcast in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're jumping across here. The mischievous meerkats. They're looking really neat. Actually, I love this kit too.
Solid.
I think it is very easy to see them, especially in the desert. It's quite a distinctive kit that they've got with that green, especially from the side or the top angle. But they're using the draft really well. They've obviously figured out how that all works. Too hot for Jersey. That's what do we think she means there? That's an interesting one, Dave. Well, too hot for Jersey. Bye. Woo.
So I'm going to guess. So don't go in camera with her, as I think we might have a rider that doesn't have all of the garments on, which I understand.
If this is week 7, what's going to happen in week 8? I mean, I think I think it's
the after
getting,
party edition, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, hold on.
So,
can we just look at these splits for a second, Dave? Because they went through at the same time, that 6K, but by the 14K mark, the lightning strikes have increased their pace a little bit, so that's now out to a 13-second gap. Can the meerkats push a little bit through this section and maybe claw some of them back? I reckon it could be time for them to sacrifice a rider or two here, Dave, because they're not too far off, and if they can pick up the pace a bit, they might be back in the game.
So much flat. This is going to be really, really interesting here. So getting a good look at the gap here. So that's an interesting question, Kate, because there's not a definitive answer. I don't know that I would sack. It would really depend. So if I had a racer that was starting to skip pulls, I would have that racer take one final long, hard pull and move on, because we're now coming up on about 10K to go. Time taken off of the 4th rider. Look at that Roadrunner right there. I've never seen that before. See him over on the left-hand side?
He's cool. He's very cool.
Kate,
I've never seen him either. How do I ride through here all the time?
How have I never seen this? Exactly. So maybe, Kate, we're getting treated to a in-game event-only feature, because this course is event-only. No, he's always out there,
the other consideration there, Dave, is that neither you nor I travel through this section at the speed they're currently going. So maybe Roadrunner only comes out if you go fast enough.
And to be honest, Kate, I'm pretty much cross-eyed probably, so I'm not
Yeah.
even noticing any road
Yeah,
runners.
yeah, that's true. If
It's,
we hit 39k an hour, we don't have very much blood flowing to our eyeballs anymore.
you don't have road runners in Australia, do you? Isn't that an
No,
American
we
bird?
don't. Are they? Hold on, hold on. Are they actually real things? They're not real, are
Oh yeah,
they?
oh yeah. My
Are they
dog,
really?
my dog was attacked by a road runner. Arliss was.
Seriously? I.
My
Oh my
mom,
gosh.
my mom used to live in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and she lived there for a long time. And we were down there visiting for Thanksgiving, and Arliss got into it, and the Roadrunner won without it was hands down. Arliss put her tail between her legs and ran away. So they are
I
really scrap. I mean, a
I
three
did
pound
not know
bird
they were
scared.
real.
So the other thing I noticed right through here, there's a dust devil. So certainly you have them. There's a road runner, but certainly you have them. Do you call them dust devils in Australia?
I've got to say, this is up there with Anna and her cheese cutter hat. That I had to Google because I had no idea what she was talking about. I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research on this. I mean, look, I'm up with penguins. If you want to ask me a question about
Yeah, you're an
penguins,
expert on penguins.
but
We heard. Yeah.
we love
So
penguins in
ornithology.
Australia. They're such beautiful, loyal birds. But I do. Is that a roadrunner? That little thing?
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that
I
go
mean,
fast?
you have no
Wow.
idea how mean that guy is. I mean, they're really like they have the hearts of Tyrannosaurus rexes. As a matter of fact, it's
Wow.
proven birds are
There you
the
go.
meanest of all animals. They have, like, you ever been attacked by a crow? Well, if you haven't,
Well,
when you
the
do, you'll hear what I'm
magpies.
saying.
We get the magpies
They're
in Australia.
horrific. Magpies
And
are
magpie
terrifying.
season is absolutely terrifying. I mean, if you get through a spring without ruining a helmet or having blood come out of your ears because of a magpie, you're doing exceptionally well. So I agree that birds are terribly mean. But
There's
roadrunners
a,
don't look mean. Look at them; they look kind of well. They don't
well,
look
do you know what a
fast
Pitawaka
either. So
Waka
maybe
is?
oh,
I've learned
what
so
that
much
is
about
made of.
birds. So
Pawaka
because of
Waka.
Yeah, yeah, you heard me right.
Right. Okay.
It's
All right.
it's you know what? Nathan and I and yourself have become ornithologists vis-a-vis Zwift Community Live because we talk about birds all the time. So many. Well, there's a bunch of teams that use birds as their. So that's a roadrunner who is murdering a rattlesnake, Kate. That's what.
Murder, yes. Well, I mean,
And that's just
eat or be
another day in
eaten,
the
I
desert.
suppose.
This
But
what you're
he
seeing
does
there
look quite
happens
friendly.
all the time.
Well, there you go. I just did not even know that they were real. So there you go. Oh dearie me. I mean, I know sloths are real, and I love the sloths in the jungle. Tell me you've noticed those.
Oh yeah, but they don't hurt anyone. They're very
Yeah,
chill.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
see
yeah. They are.
you
They're
don't see
very,
any
very
teams celebrating the. Can you imagine that? Dave Tolles racing sloths. Well, I wouldn't give them much of a chance. You know,
no, no.
you're like, are they
All
better than
right,
the
wait.
turtles? Yeah, like
Yeah, the turtles and the sloths are about
yeah,
measured, aren't they? We've got the Felix here
taking
now.
on.
This is a good kid as well, Dave. This is a nice bright one that we have to pay attention to. It looks very good. Have they got four? Are they down to four riders? It looks like they are down to four riders. So they need to look
Fearless.
after each other for this final 10 kilometres because the time is taken off the fourth rider, of course. So
It's
they
like one
just
of
need to
the.
settle into a nice speed and rhythm here.
I agree, and that's where the captain really comes into play out here. Just kind of set the mood, the vibe. It looks like one of Anna Russell's signature headbands has been purchased by this rider. Good use of her drops out here. As every headband purchased is there's a donation made to the Anna Russell Foundation for fashion
Yes.
savvy riders. Um, so this is the Fearlets, part of the Fear family. They sound a lot scarier than they actually are. They're a great team,
Less
Kate.
scary than Roadrunners.
They're significantly on the less scary side. Lightning strikes with 24:51. Did you hear, Kate? We had a racer that Nathan was highlighting on WTRL that had been struck by lightning last year that was racing with
Oh,
us. He said there was no physiological advantage.
yikes. Did you just
Donuts.
notice that Katie Levy is looking for donuts? I think
Who isn't, Katie?
these well, I agree. I agree with your sentiment, Katie. We had a chicks who rode bikes bunch ride yesterday morning, and for the entire 50 minutes of the ride, we spoke about cake. We spoke about every kind of cake you can imagine, in every kind of shape you can imagine. And at the end, I think everyone was quite disappointed that for the most part it was breakfast and they felt like they couldn't potentially eat cake yet or ice cold beer. Andrea, look, I agree with that, or a combination of the two could go very well together. It looks like they're having fun. I like that.
In-game
I
chat.
like that
Yeah,
they're
I love
chatting a
it.
little bit.
Well, and I mean, Kate, I wasn't joking. It actually holds true for me as well. Thursday nights have become very much a touchstone. It's nice to have something to look forward to every week with people that you really enjoy. And this is something, I think this is significant. This is something that for a lot of these women that they choose to do with their time, right? This is mom's time or however that works in their family, but this is their thing and it has physiological benefits, mental benefits, and social benefits. And I think the social part we're seeing there in that chat, and I love it. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And they're moving pretty well at this point too, and they've still got enough
Yeah, this
reps
doesn't look so social, does it?
to jump in. So that's pretty good. We're going to jump across to the men. So we will be watching the men Div 2Cs is who we're looking at. So we can see some split times. We're still looking at the women's split times there. So we'll get the men's up when they do come through, only about 11K in. I was just about to say I'm missing a few riders here, but it looks like they're coming back together, but still only three. So we are
Find
missing
me one
somebody
more.
there. Yeah, there might be somebody else out on course. We'll take a look at the overall standings
So,
too to make sure we understand who's who in the zoo here.
who's who in the zoo? I like that, Kate. Hey, quickly, Kate, I'm going to say that we're going to have situations in America's West where teams, you mentioned that, there's a lot going on in people's lives right now. Some of these teams might not have had the required number of riders to start. And more power to them. If they want to race with three, I don't believe they're going to get an official time off of these three, but they get the racing experience. And that's what it's not perfect, but that is a big part of just keeping that rhythm going, Kate. They like racing on Tuesday nights, and they could pull the pin and not race at all, or race with three and get no time. I will tip my cap to the athlete that chooses to race and take no time. That's great. Good for you. Sorry that it didn't work out, but I know you'll have your full contingent back soon. I hope you do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And I also think that teams who go out there with six and there's a bit of a mushroom cloud early on and they finish in pieces, I also tip my hat to them because I think if you don't push your limits, you don't really know your limits, and
You tried.
that
You
might
tried.
really help them in the future. So
Isn't that it,
but I
Kate?
think they may have. Let's just run the standings really quick so that we can jump around here. We've got the Dirty Rascals Grit, a leading Div to the B. TFC Ronan a couple of points back, so a good race for 1 and 2 there. The Killer Bees, that's one for you, Nathan, sitting in third. Cryogen Mount Diablo in fourth. Again, still pretty tight from third to fourth. On the Rivet Rocks in fifth. Herd of Powerful Ponies. Oh, I quite like that one. Evo
Nice.
Sonic Dash in seventh. SBL Penticton in eighth. BicycleAttorney.com in ninth. Let's hope nobody ever needs that. And ATP Racing Ozone sitting in 10th there. So pretty competitive at the top end there, which means this week will be important. Dave, the C's.
So that's who we're looking at right now, Kate. I did want to add that this is, so as you said, this is you can see up on the top there, America's West Division 2Cs. Now, there's just for the men, I'm not even including the women, but so we have, well, I'm not even going to get into it. There's just teams all over the shop, left, right, and center. So this then is Dirty Rascals Affogato. Love the name, and they've had as close to a perfect season without being perfect as you can. 119 points right now. As Red Peloton C is in second In third place is Lightning Velo Sea Storm. ATP Racing Ethel in fourth. Crouch Mount Lemon fifth. PMC team is in sixth. BRT Darkwing Duck in seventh. Berkeley Bicycle Club C team in eighth. And the club Route 2 in ninth. So that's a look at our C's, and I'll throw it to you for the D's. Oh, there are no D's. I'm sorry there.
We don't have a D. This is Division 2. Gosh, a lot of the leagues in this season have a lot of different divisions, which is pretty cool to see the depth there as they fold down. I mean, in EMEA, we were talking about Division 3 in the women, which is unreal because a lot of them only have one division. So that's always great to see. It looks like we might have 6 of them back together here, Dave. Wasn't that a turnaround? There must have been a bit of a split over the KOM, but it's great to see the 6 of them back together. We've got Joe Serpina, Tammy Huget, so maybe we've got a lady there. In fact, we've got 2 ladies in here. Sarah Ugolini is also out there. Erkan Akyaz, John Makepeace, and Anthony De Castro, the 6 of them. It's worth noting that it is quite different racing with some women, not necessarily because they're not as strong, because a lot of them are, Dave, but just often the men and the women have a little bit different racing styles. And when you first bring them together, it takes a little bit of time to kind of mesh together. But I love these mixed teams. I think they're doing a great thing for the women's development. They're doing a great thing for the sport. And it looks to me like it's happening more and more regularly that these mixed teams are getting introduced. So they've gone through, most of them have gone through that first 6K mark. They're moving pretty quickly and not huge gaps either. Racing Ethel, the ATP squad, and Lightning Velo are pretty close there. So let's see what the club rule come through with them, and Berkeley Bicycle Club, and we'll have a bit of a picture of how everyone's travelling in that first opening section.
Interesting point you make there, Kate, and I would double down on saying that typically for the women in these mixed teams, one, it's just awesome to see. They're lighter, right? So they have a tougher time on these fast, flat it's raw wattage that we're talking about. And when you have a 52-kilogram rider in a group with the 80-kilogram rider, that's basically exactly what we're looking at, Kate. You can even see the physical size difference between the guys and the women on this mixed team, and the women just punch above their weight over and over out here, and it's some of the most impressive riding that we see, without any doubt. They're coming up on the midpoint of the race now. They're really basically right at the midpoint here.
There is around, we're looking at 10 PMC at the moment, and we did see them all come back together. But they're about to be caught by ATP. Wow. We're going to them right now. Ooh, fancy kit. Like this one, guys. And they are coming up pretty quickly, only about 14 seconds behind. 14 seconds on this kind of course is a really good distance where you can just see them up ahead, and it really gives them something to chase. So I don't expect this will take too long, and it just goes to show the speed that these guys are traveling at. So they did go through that 6K with the quickest time. So when we get their 14K times, I would expect that would have extended a little bit further.
This ATP team that we're looking at racing Ethel here is Britt Smith, Chad Ebbs there, Chris Kussel, Claudia Gray, Greg Myers, Ian Hiltz, and Ken McGinnis. As I think Ken McGinnis might be the director of the team.
Is that an adenosine triphosphate molecule that Nathan has brought up on screen?
You've got to be kidding me. This guy. So we just found our employee of the month as Nathan. So that's
I'll get the frame if you print the photo, Dave.
That's awesome.
We can hang it up in the hall for him. Thank you, Nathan. ATP. Well, look, if they are by reputation the same as their name, then certainly it lends them to being quite anaerobic and powerful riders. If you're going with that ATP definition. So let's see if they live up to their name today. 22:32. They've increased their pace significantly. There was only a 45-second gap in that first time check, but look at the difference now. It's out to nearly 2 minutes. So they've really buckled down and gotten moving, haven't they?
Yeah, what is Lightning fellow Sea Storm going to do here? I tell you what, you will know that Nathan is the greatest producer in the history of mankind when your doorbell rings and DoorDash is there with an affogato for you. Then we'll have really, really arrived. It's unbelievable, a virtual affogato. Nathan,
this is quite fun today.
Man.
I really want Mount Lemon. If you could find us Mount Lemon, Nathan, that'd
I wonder
be great,
if he's going to show us a
like
lemon and a mountain. Does he show us a lemon and a mountain, or does he find an actual photo of Mount Lemon? We'll see. But ATP Racing Ethel is in with the 22:32. And so a PMC team, 24:11, we're going to start filling in more splits here pretty quickly. I'm wondering, I think that we're still waiting.
This is good for ATP. I mean, it's pretty nice for them to be able to chase and have that to chase. It allows them to pace a little bit better. They are down to only 4, which is the number that they do need to finish. So they need to make sure they kind of hang on to that. But we've got Ian Hiltz, Chris Kusel, Britt Smith, Chad Ebbs and Greg Myers. Are the ATP squad out there. So Myers is 24 seconds back there. So that's one of their team members. He's now done his job and he is now going to roll it in. So well done, Greg, on your contribution today. He's now kind of handed over the keys to the rest of his team and said, off you go, fellas. And they are doing a tremendous job with that. They've still got more than 10K to go, though, so they will need to settle into a pretty good rhythm to make sure no legs get cracked. The ladies are just finishing day, so we're just going to jump back to the meerkats and take a look at their form as they come into the finish. This shot's always an awkward one because I go, where are the others? So if we're only seeing they are just ahead. They are there. So there's all 6 of them. Sigh of relief. And a request, Nathan, don't do that. You're honestly giving me heart palpitations for these poor meerkats. I'm imagining that really ugly, scary meerkat. I'm imagining their faces are looking like that from suffering at this point. No more soft and cuddly meerkats. They're kind of race-face meerkats now.
I hate to say it, with that kind of attitude, it's no wonder you're alone if you're making that face at people. Look at the face on that guy, right?
I mean, be warned.
So, yes. Now these are the cute hugging meerkats, but it's no longer so cute. There's a little bit of pain going through the group now because they're almost home. They're very close, Kate. They're going to see that finish gantry in just a moment. As I hope that you have a huge Ferris wheel down there in Australia. I have to think there's one somewhere near Sydney. As this is
we've got a couple. Yeah, we do have a couple. I mean, it's not quite this specky. It looks like they're going to have a bit of a sprint at the finish here. I like that. Shows a little bit of sass and pizzazz.
Little pluck.
Get it done, ladies. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you bring it home. So this is the mischievous meerkats into their final 5K, done and dusted. Whole squad together, and it looks like we got a pretty similar situation going on. We're going to move through a few different teams here, and let's go into KISS and the finale here. KRT, KISS Racing Team, C Lightning.
These are the Thunderbolts and Lightning. The Lightning Strikes here. They started very much on par with the Meerkats. That gap opened up a little bit, but it has come down again at the 20K mark. So I reckon that this could be quite a tight finish in the end. It was back to 8 seconds with 20K done and dusted. So can they bring it back in this final 8? This is a great ride.
Yeah, this is going to be close. Well, so that makes a lot more sense when you see the Meerkat sprinting there a moment ago, because this is what they're trying to hold off, and this team has done a tremendous job. Kate, this is going to be less than 10 seconds. I think less than 5. Boy, the Meerkats, if they win this one, they did it by the skin of their teeth as KRT is now lighting it up. All right, ladies, time taken off of the fourth wheel. Gonna be touch and
Yeah,
go
this is
here.
good.
Super close.
Wendy Collicutt she's putting it all out there and just getting to the line as quickly as she can. At this point, if they all just sprint and give absolutely everything all the way to the finish, that is going to be the fastest way to do it. So Collicutt has slightly fresher legs. She's opened up a little gap, but the other's not too far behind. And this will go right down to the wire. You're right, Dave. It does make a little bit more sense now about why the Meerkats were sprinting. It's certainly on their minds that it may come well down to the wire, but we'll just have to see. We're watching Amy Jo Mundasev. These are the Fearlets, and they've looked pretty good out on course. I mean, they're sitting in fourth, but they've been pretty consistent. They didn't start. They started pretty quick, and then took them a bit of time to settle in, but they've settled in to a reasonable speed now. So they've just got to get safely to the finish with all 4 of them. But it's not far now, so I think they'll make it and can be happy with their ride.
I'm a fan of the Fearlets. There's something I like about their vibe here. And yeah, they are close. There's the Zwift blimp. We get a lot of features out here on this event-only course that we've had. Again, going back to the very start of the show, what a great team time trial course this is. I think the teams really get they get just the full range of their talents to display out here. The teams that have been doing the work on the formations and the aerodynamics really comes into play, and the teams that have got good fitness really get to show that on the reverse KOM. So, just about done and dusted here.
Well, and they get to have a little bit of fun because they're coming into the very end of the season. And at this point, a lot of the overall tables and placings have sorted out, at least to a point where they roughly know where they're going to fit. The pressure's off a little bit. They get to just go out there and give their all and see what happens. So, and like you said earlier, Dave, not everybody's looking for a promotion up, and not everybody would be too concerned if they got a demotion down either. I think it's just about having some fun out there in the process of it.
And Kate, on that point, exactly, I think the only thing that would bum them out is if they didn't get to race with their girls anymore. You know, that's what
exactly.
They don't care so much what if it's A's or B's or C's or Z's or Mars or Jupiter, but as long as it's with these women, I'll do it.
Well, and look, while everybody's starting to warm down, if you can think of some creative team names for next season as well, to keep Nathan on his toes so that he can get ahead with the Googling, that could be quite fun as well. The Fearlets, I'm thinking we need like a special superhero with a cape is what I'm envisaging. So maybe one of producer Nathan's children could draw us a superhero if they have any artistic skill.
Nathan's kids were out racing their brains out this weekend in Wisconsin at a UCI race that they had there. It was I was talking about that in the previous show. It was so cool to see. That's going to be the Misfit Meerkats coming across the line now with Ho. They're done. And we've got the Queen Bees 5 together. Looking good, ladies. Let's bring it on home.
It's good when you see full teams come across the line together, because as much as I like when you see them all over the road because, you know, they've had a bit of fun out there, it's also there's a lot of camaraderie when they're all finishing together. So they've get to be able to do that as well. We can see from the split board that they've also had a pretty consistent day out on board. So they set a good speed early and they just consistently held that, which will certainly serve them well in terms of enjoyability out there. Teams time trials are pretty tough, Dave. They can be pretty grim. If you are really pushing it out to the end. So it can be a little bit more civilized to race just purely to a strategy and not so much worrying too much about every single second and every single meter.
Every pro rider, I think, would relate to the fact that the team time trial could be some of the scariest moments in your career as far as feeling inadequate or exposed. I mean, it can be terrifying. I'm not good enough. That self-doubt that even some of the world's best athletes have to go through. That's why you see so many of top professional athletes in all sports relying heavily on that PMA, right, Kate? Positive mental attitude, and finding mental coaches to help you visualize success. And all of those things have made a huge difference as we continue to always prioritize athletes' mental health. As I think that we learned a lot in the last couple of decades about things like head injuries and abusive coaching and all those things. We've come a long way, and we're going to keep working on making sport better and safer for everyone. And Zwift has been tremendous for getting people out there being competitive and avoiding some of the pitfalls that athletes find in the world of sports. So this is just great to see the Queen Bees coming across the line here. Women's C's, it was an honor to cover your racing out here today.
Nathan, I've loved meeting all of the different teams, to have all of these different divisions that we cover, Dave. It's been pretty cool that we've been able to mix it up a little bit and not just be on the same league every week.
We've learned about a lot of birds, so that's been great.
Yes, we have. Yes, it's been enlightening.
For sure. So listen, I mean, WTRL, ZRL, there's, basically 10,000 people that are part of this racing community now. This is ATP that we're going in with. And Kate, I'm circling back to what you were talking about. The very competitive end of this sport can be a little bit brutal, to tell you the truth. It's dog eat dog, cutthroat. And just like Kate was saying, riders will sacrifice themselves for the team's benefit. Not everybody has signed up for that, and that is absolutely cool with us. If you're here to ride with your team and to get everybody to the finish line, that's a different world that you're in, and it's a really cool world. So you do you.
Yeah, I agree. Whatever on earth you're out in Zwift to do for whatever you need. I always say that when I'm on bunch rides that I'm leading, like, do what feels good for you today. We have a beacon and we'll be setting a pace, but if you feel like zipping up the road, off you go, have a ball. If you are here for the chat but want to drop off behind the beacon, I also encourage that. I think that everybody has so much going on in their lives that the last thing we need is to kind of be commanded too much on a bike ride about what we may or may not want to get out of it. So the ATP riders, I think they have chosen to sacrifice a rider just based on the speed that they're traveling, and also
I'm wondering
the credentials of Greg Myers. And they had 6. So Greg Myers was the last one to go, but they did start with 6. And you can, on those little split signs, if you've got your glasses on, Dave, which I do not, you can actually see that there's a little 6 there.
After Nathan said it, I noticed. So that's kind of welcome to my life.
Yeah.
And so it looks like Claudia has done her work. Claudia Gray, we were highlighting earlier in that ATP team for racing Ethel. So she has, again, I just watched an interesting documentary about the team pursuit. And it's really interesting when you look at it, Kate, as you know, with your track background, there's going to be a rider that trains with the team, has done every single meal, training session, has the blood, the sweat, and the tears that go into making the Olympics, who will travel to the Olympic Games and not get to race as the fifth of 4.
It's the slogger, isn't it? I mean, it's always a tough one, and you do know that is a potential if you are part of the 5th rider in a 4-man squad. But it does happen. But they are equally as important to the preparation. And in fact, on the track, they can offer up to 6 medals, 6 gold medals for a 4-man event or 4-woman event, depending on how many rounds people ride. So that's a pretty cool thing as well. It kind of encourages everybody along the way.
I mean, I think you'd agree with me, but maybe not. But I've always said, like, if we call cycling a team sport and you have a rider from Australia who wins the gold medal in the road race, shouldn't the other 2 or 3 riders on her team also get a gold medal if they helped win that gold medal? I mean, you can't cut it up into 4 pieces.
I'll tell you a story about that one, Dave, because my sister won the Commonwealth Games road race in 2006 in Melbourne. One of the proudest moments of my career, actually, watching her win. And when Nat finished and went onto the podium, our whole team jumped on the podium with her because it was such a team effort, and we really felt like we wanted to
Beautiful.
celebrate with Nat and make it. And we got fined quite a lot of money for doing that. Now, thankfully, the Commonwealth Games Association of Australia paid the fine for us, but they were not happy about it at all. I mean, you know what? We got the photos.
Protocol. Yeah, that's awesome.
We totally did, but we got the photos. Totally worth the fine, even if we had to pay it ourselves. So it's definitely a quirk, isn't it? That it should be recognised, but it isn't. And for newcomers to the sport, when you tell them it's a team sport, they're like, I don't really get it. So it can take a little bit of education.
Yeah, this is lightning. That's a great story, Kate, and I just think it makes me feel emotional when I think about your sister and how for her having the team and her sister as part of that team on the podium with her pay that fine all day long to those creeps. Okay, so Hartman is the rider that we're looking at. We're down to it here. The men are looking. So 26K tells me that you've got 3.2K of racing remaining here as they just come up on 40 minutes. They're the second fastest team, Lightning Velo's Sea Storm, 31:42. They're within striking distance. It's a relatively big ask, Kate, but ATP Racing Ethel better stay on the gas or they'll have these guys right up on their bumper.
Well, I mean, bearing in mind ATP only have 4 riders, so you might think that 15 seconds or 16 seconds looks like quite a lot. And it is if everything goes to plan. It is if you're considering can they make up 16 seconds in that short period. We just saw Greg Myers for a moment there. He's one of those ATP riders that kind of put himself on the line for the team. Affogato there. Oh, I do love a good Affogato. And they're moving along pretty well as well. So they're sitting in third. They're 25 seconds back. So again, it looks to me like that would be a pretty big gap to close, except for the fact that, again, you do have to get to the finish with 4 riders. So anything can actually happen there. So I think you can probably hear my yappy dog in the background. Sorry about that. And again, when I say my yappy dog, Dave,
it's not your
mine,
dog. I think you just say, I think you can hear. Yeah. Does that dog have a name? Do you know its name?
Yeah. No.
No. All right.
Can
Anonymous
you call
dog.
him Barney or something? I don't know.
Sure. That's perfect. Barney. All right. Well, Barney's loving it because he knows we're into the finale here. So what have we got? This is Red Peloton with right behind them, I think I see an Australian flag. Oh, that's BRT.
They're not too far behind. This is, I like a good late overtake here. But again, this camera angle, I'm a bit concerned. Where's rider number 4? They may have started with 3. They're not on the results, actually. I think that might be that.
I think that they're racing for the experience out there, as this is Akin Masuru of the Cryogen team. And that's not Ayers Rock. I think we're just looking at Mount Lemon.
Is that Mount Lemon? Is this actual Mount Lemon? It's beautiful. It looks amazing. Do you think that that means that they're kind of climbers, that they have the name of a mountain? I mean, I think it's a bit of a theme for Cryogen to have mountains as their team names, but you'd be a bit put off if you were the sprinter.
I don't know. My rapping name was Skinny D. So I don't know that.
Your rapping name. Stop it.
So
Righto, Skinny D.
So,
Sorry, I
yeah,
apologize.
you know,
I'm
I
not
don't know.
laughing
I
at you,
think
Dave. I'm laughing with
no,
you.
no, of course. So I think that cryogen actually, I'm going to guess that. So it's always interesting how the genesis of these teams and then the process of to where we are now. So at some point, somebody loved the world's great climbs, but there are hundreds and hundreds of riders on cryogen, and I'm sure that plenty of them do not self-identify as a climber. Some do,
Self-identify as
though.
a climber.
Yes,
That's actually real. That's quite an eloquent way of putting it. Actually, Dave,
yes,
I can tell you what, I do not self-identify as a climber. I
me
self-identify as a
either.
sprinter, as does Akin Masuru, because I've just looked him up, and his 15-second average power. What do you reckon that might be, Dave?
Ooh.
I'll give you two
So
guesses, but
obviously,
um,
well, you're impressed. So, and you know your way around power numbers. So if you're impressed, I'm going to say that he's close to 13.
well, I gave you two guesses, but you're so close. 1,258 watts
Yeah,
for
what's that
15
watts per kilo for
seconds.
him?
It's 13.4 watts per kilo for him. That
Feeling
is
good about my
absolutely
guess. Yeah.
brutal. They are massive numbers. And I think sometimes avatars can be quite misleading. Like I've got to say, my avatar looks considerably more petite than I actually am, which I love, by the way. I take that on board. Um, but for some
I
reason, it
agree with
seems
that,
like
though.
um,
I
with
agree. Mine is smaller.
the fellas look muscly. They often look really muscly,
Some
where
of
the
them do.
female
Mine,
avatars don't really. Yeah.
now I'm with you, but my avatar does not look muscly at all. So I, but what's funny is I completely agree with you. Remember that guy that we had in season two that was just, I mean, he was ripped.
Yes.
Um,
That monster truck? Because we had
yes,
monster truck
yes.
who looked like a
Good
monster
memory,
truck.
Kate. And I mean, he looked like he'd been hitting the gym every day since he was 12. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're looking at Lightning Velo D. They were the second to go out. They are looking. Oh, they've only got four of them. So again, did they start? How are your eyes going? They started
so
with
they
five.
started
I
with
just had a little
five.
bit of a
Yep.
squint to have a look at that.
Yeah, I
They
same
started with
here.
five. They've got 1.3K left to go. They're doing pretty well. 8 seconds adrift of the charging courses. But
They could
the
get it.
four of
They
them,
could
they've
win this
drafted
race.
really well. They could as well. We've had some incredibly tight races in every category, haven't we?
We sure have, Kate. And I mean, they all in all, I mean, if you're just judging by what we're looking at here, they're still in formation. If they don't win, they certainly went out with a huge effort. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, when you've got four that are consistently performing, I actually like that they went out pretty hard, and then they appeared to. I won't use the word struggle, but I'll say they tempered it. They definitely tempered that effort through the 14 to 20 kilometre section and there. And now the question is, have they been able to then ramp it up again for the back end? Because the courses have just gotten faster as they've progressed through. So it is definitely a tale of two different strategies with this team and how they've addressed it. But we've seen quite a lot change between the 20 and 28K split mark. Some surprises overall when we see the final finishing board from what we expected from that 20K.
Yeah, this is where all that lactic acid is just making your legs scream. This is where Jens Vogt has his trademark shut up legs because you are right now just hoping that that finish line appears, and you know it does. So they've raced on this course before. Not everybody, some of the riders, but you know that it's not far now. How many times do you hear that on a ride? Just one more hill. It's not far, just a little more. We're almost there. Well, finally, it's true. There it is. We are done and dusted. Did they do enough? We'll look at all of our results to find out here tonight if Lightning V Velo was able to. And this is going to be the charging courtesers here. So I think that they've done enough here, Kate. I think just looking at the time differences, I think that the herd is going to get it done, but not from. We'll see. all will be proven, but I think Lightning Velo D made a run at it. It looks like the Corsairs are going to get it done as they're just about to finish here. Thank you, Nathan, for a great night. Those
Is this a corsa? Is this another bird lesson? Because I also didn't know a corsa was a bird. If this is what
I
we've
thought it was
just
a
discovered,
horse. Oh,
there you go. Horses
so
for
let's
courses.
go
I mean,
ahead.
isn't that where that came
Horses
from?
for so it's funny that new
Courses there,
saying
horses, courses
will
there,
have
birds.
people
My
around the
goodness.
world scratching their head, Kate.
Oh, dearie
So
me.
apparently there's a
Well,
horse
these
as
are
well, but
definitely horses for these courses,
right. Can you imagine
for
that
the
on the next
birds.
Premier League? If I'm like, well, there's coursers for courses. That
He looks pretty cool, actually. I
wow.
mean, I don't think I'd like to necessarily attempt to ride said horse. It looks like
That
it,
looks
it may
like a
be a
Game
bit
of
crazy, but
Thrones horse, like a Game
it
of
does.
Thrones
It
guy.
does. You
Yeah.
need a big sword if you're going to try and ride that thing.
You know what? And I'm fresh out of swords around here, so I guess I'm out. Um,
Yeah, I don't store them in my house either. It's
now,
not a done thing. You probably have to change your insurance. We're just going to duck back to the seas to see Cryogen finish here.
we're
So
just
they've
with
had a
Jen.
very good day out on course. Akin Masuru, he is our guru sprinter, and looks like he might be giving the finale a crack. Just cause when you've got legs that go that fast, why wouldn't you open it up and have a go? Goodness me, rockets past too, and
Yeah, the
into the
numbers
orange,
that he
and
makes.
then he sits down like not even trying.
Yeah, to be honest, Kate, that the numbers that he makes are comparable to Premier League guys, at least for the short burst efforts out here. That is more than impressive.
Well, the
Yikes.
heart rate is more than impressive, 208. Yikers. And I looked up his age and it classifies him as a
Yeah,
veteran.
how
And,
old?
they're a bit
Huh.
jumbly with the age, but veteran does definitely indicate that he's not 16 because, 16, you might see a 208
You know,
beats per minute. So good on him, giving it a go at the end.
I have to admit that I still don't know the exact definition of what a veteran is. I have a feeling it's 30 to 40 with masters
Oh,
taking over.
yeah.
Nathan is
Yeah,
disagreeing,
I
and he
don't know if
knows
I'm
better
a
than
veteran
I.
or a
So
master.
we'll have.
Either way, they should just put next to my name Pastor Prime. That's, I think, my
Uh,
category.
well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't think he's got an ARP card, the American Association of Retired Professionals. I don't think he's in that group.
An ARP card.
Not
I
making
like
those
that.
odds. Yeah.
It's actually an interesting conversation because he's a D category rider based on all of his other power numbers, but his sprint is so incredible that he would be incredibly difficult to beat should he get to the finish of any race or to beat in any intermediate sprint. So he's a very interesting DCAT, one of the more interesting DCAT riders we'll see from a power perspective.
I agree. Like to have that one incredibly high level skill amongst a skill set that is, relatively normal for that group. That is a very unique situation. That's for sure. Um, if they ever did have match sprinting, which is, well, again, a track reference for you folks, that's basically when you hear about sprinters, that's the sprinter sprint. That's the 200-meter all out best 2 out of 3 that you see at the velodrome. I would put my money on him.
Well, you could have some drag races, like just
Yeah,
500 meters or 1 kilometer from the pen. That could be quite interesting too.
that'd be fun. We've done that in real
Yeah.
life before at races like Redlands Classic in America. The prologue has been drag racing like that. It's great for crowds.
Yeah. Oh, now we've got pronghorns. I was just about to say you taught me last week about the pronghorns at the end of
Yeah,
the
the good old
broadcast, Dave.
antelope
That they were
family.
what? Hold on. What do we call them though? They're not deers. They're
Springbok?
antelope or springbok?
Yeah,
Are they? Oh,
sort of,
there you
sort
go.
of in that group. Aren't they cute?
Yeah, we don't really
This
have
is
a lot of said animals here in Australia. We're too
I tell you
busy
what, in
populating
Australia, they would be
snakes and spiders.
barbecue in about 6 seconds with all the killers that you guys have.
Yes.
The animals that are cute like this don't last, believe me.
No.
They'd
Well,
show
look,
up in
we do like
Australia.
to, even our national animals, Dave, we like to barbecue them. So we do eat crocodile and kangaroo and emu here. So, no animal is safe, no matter how cute and cuddly they may be. Monica Tolley here
You
is
don't
the
eat
writer that we're looking at
koala.
from the
You don't eat
pronghorns.
koala, do
No,
you?
we do not. We do not eat
Yeah.
koala. We're
So you draw
not
the line
complete
somewhere. Yeah.
barbarians.
I mean,
But
it's like, look,
that's kind of it, actually.
that's another way to judge a man, right? Like, if hey, listen, if someone dates, or I mean, if a guy that you're thinking of dating eats koala, that should be a warning sign. It'd be like
Yeah,
eating,
that's a red flag. Add
yeah,
that to
that's a
your
major red
little
flag.
list
Yeah.
that we started at the beginning of the night. Oh, look, the other
Can
thing
you
we have
imagine?
a bird called a bush turkey. I'm going to get you to look that up. And bush turkeys make a terrible mess. They're not particularly popular in
They
suburban
sound
uh,
horrible. Yeah, like
areas, but bush turkeys are
they probably
protected, and
taste
I
like
think they're
eucalyptus.
I think that they're protected because everybody wants to. There was a bit of a thing where people were poisoning the poor things because
Oh,
they kind of set up in people's gardens and build these giant nests, and so they'll turn your backyard into a giant nest, and then they'll have baby bush turkeys, and that's it. Your garden's a nest. There they are. See, that's a little
they
baby
look
bush turkey.
Belgian. They look like they're from Belgium.
They do. They do. They can go back to Belgium if they like.
I'm gonna get
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
get Lionel
too many people
Viasen
would
one
miss
of those turkeys
them.
and mail it to him. He'll be more than excited. It can live with his duck there, and
Yeah. Oh,
they can
look, this
enjoy that.
is a nice little zoo is forming. We will get results through when we can, but there's been some. I don't know
It's
if
a
that's a
baby
bush
one.
turkey.
I
It
think it's
looks
a baby
cute, but I've
bush
never
turkey.
seen a white one before.
So, but Kate, what
Maybe
you're
he
saying is
just.
this turkey will destroy your life if it moves into your backyard. It
It
will
will.
literally
Yeah.
destroy
Yes.
your. Yeah,
It will. It will.
I believe it.
Your children will love it, and then other than you will be wishing that it wasn't protected. So there's a lot of shooing that goes on with these animals to get rid of them. Now that we've
Not
unpacked all the bird species.
It's funny. Here in the States, they call it a NIMBY, not in my backyard. And I think that those birds would
Yeah,
be getting quite a bit of that reaction.
yeah.
So it sounds like they're working hard on results right now. Again, fantastic evening. Always love it with you, Kate. Always gets a little bit loose in the corners on Tuesday nights. We have a lot of fun with this broadcast and for everybody with your comments. And it's always nice to hear that you're enjoying it out there. So we had a chance to jump in with the Division 2C and the Division 1Ds today. So we looked at a bunch of different groups, and we'll make our final checks and make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Do you use that
Yeah, and we'll
expression
see
in
where
Australia?
that's all went out. We do, yeah, dot our I's and cross our T's. Often I say it the other way around because I think everybody does, or I'm just weird.
Dot your T's
Either
and
way,
cross your
yes.
I's.
Yeah, it's something we use. Let's take a look at the men's Division 1 first. All the results are rolling in. David, is always a ball to commentate with you. We've only got 1 week left, so we'll have to have a little bit of fun in Surrey Hills as well. So let's take a look at these results. Some of those 20K splits, it looked like we might have a few upsets at the finish. So what happened? Dave, I'll hand it over to you to start with the Div 1As.
I'm already smiling. Some of our favorite teams are here, Kate. This is Dirty Rascals Riot with a wow, really quick 37.52. That's good for the gold medal today in our men's mixed America's West Division 1A. It's Oh My God, They Killed Kenny in second for silver. On the Rivet, Hayes taking the bronze. Penn Velo A for fourth. It's Alto Velo Zayante in fifth. Musette Honey Badgers in sixth. On the Rivet, Rush seventh. Dirty Rascals Rampage ending up in eighth. Costa Rica in ninth. And Fred AF, love that name, 10th place today in the 1As.
Yes, I think these are the easy names actually in this division. The Div 1Bs, we've got Red Peloton B taking the win ahead of ATP Racing Krypton. So ATP had a good day across the board. On the Rivet, Evo Sonic Blaster in third. On the Rivet, TWSS in fourth. The Dirty Rascals, Beliebers, our Justin Bieber fans, they're in fifth. Dr. Wilbar in sixth. I feel like you might be a fan of Mr. Ed, these people. In seventh, Tableau Hot Lunch. In eighth, TFC Pickle Juice. I'm yet to try that. In ninth, the Dirty Watts Padres. And in 10th, we've got the KRTB Big Timbers.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas this year. All right, Z Sunspot taking the win at 3-1. Look how efficient they were, Kate. The other teams on the podium were working harder, but not as smoothly as Z Sunspot taking it in the 1Cs for men's mixed. It's a silver medal for the herd of Aero Appaloosa, a bronze for Dirty Rascals Grind. TFC Mojo in fourth, On the Rivet Force in fifth, Lightning Veloci Thunder in sixth, Cryogen Grand Colombier in seventh, Wadi Inc. Goat in eighth, CCD Crushers in ninth, Guate C in 10th, and My Voice in 11th.
Yes, it is hard. You have been on the mic for many, many hours now, Dave, so thank you very much. Hopefully my waffling has saved your voice a little bit throughout this. Let's take a look at the Ds. The herd of charging coursers, whether they are birds or horses, we will have to find out. They took a good win ahead of Lightning Velo D. The Dirty Rascals diaper changes. We can get in trouble with that one. They were in third, and those herd of pronghorns, they came in for fourth this week.
Let's jump over and take a look at we'll start with our 1As as the Audi women getting good time and a lot of work out there. Very efficient. 3.2 watts per kilo. 43.01 is the time for Audi women and the win. Velocity Vixen, what battlers they are. They'll take the silver medal today, Kate, in the 1A Women's West. Back to you for the Bs.
All right, we've got the Cadence took out the win. Well, that was a good ride from them to hold off Dutch Diesel Cycling Xena, who have been a powerhouse through this season. So great ride from them. The herd of Madcap Meerkats. None of the grumpy ones, only the cuddly ones here. They were in third. The Alto Velo Tunitas. Yep. In fourth. ATP Racing Vespid, they came in fifth. San Diego Bicycle Club B in sixth. Wadi Inc. Ice Cat in seventh, and the Revo Musketeers rounded out that top eight there.
It's that time of the night where I just shout over the top of you, Kate. All right, herd of mischievous meerkats taking the win in the 1Cs for our women here. It's the herd of misfit meerkats in second. So Battle of the Meerkats there. That should be a Hollywood feature film. KRTC Lightning Strikes in third, the Fearless for fourth, and GSZ Queen Bee Coalition rounds out our top five for the women's Cs. Love the West. Love the racing out here. A lot of really spirited teams. Have a lot of fun with this, Kate. And I'm glad that Martin and Nathan on our team, Kate, we've got a great squad on on Tuesday night. So thanks again. I'll throw it back to you for some final words tonight.
We do have a cracker squad, don't we? We've got, these are the ones we were just watching them. We've got the Division 2 Bs. GSZ Killer Bees took the win ahead of the Dirty Rascals Grit. SBL Penticton coming in third. Cryogen Mount Diablo. There's your challenge next week, Nathan. We want to see Mount Diablo. In fourth. In fifth, On the Rivet Rocks. In sixth, BicycleAttorney.com. Penn Velo B2 in seventh. The herd of powerful ponies in eighth. I think that'll be pretty easy. One to get a photo of. TFC Ronan in ninth. Evo Sonic Dash took out 10th there.
I had the honor of calling Rowan Dennis winning on top of Mount Diablo at the Tour of California a few years ago, Kate, mutual friend of ours. ATP Racing
I'd like
Ethel.
a photo of that then, yes.
Yeah,
that
that's the one we should look at. I'll help Nathan with that one. So, 3 watts per kilo there was the winning watts per kilogram average. 44.47 is the time for ATP Racing Ethel. Good for the win. Lightning Velo Sea Storm silver medal today. Dirty Rascals Affogato taking the bronze. Red Peloton C will be 4th place. PMC team in 5th. The CrowdGen Mount Lemon rounds out our top 6 for America's West Division 2C.
Alrighty, well, what a week of racing, Dave. We've only got one left, so next week we will head to the Surrey Hills. There are 3 very big climbs on there, and that is coming from someone who does not self-identify as a climber. Oh, there he is, Rowan.
That was
Oh, wow,
Nathan.
that's the white chest, Rowan. Look at that. Zip your jersey up, buddy. That's Mount Diablo. A very good victory from him, and I'm sure very good memories for you too, Dave.
It's funny, Kate. He tried 3 or 4 times. The zipper was malfunctioning. And you're 100% right to ask, but I'm going to stand up for Rowan on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit awkward to cross the line holding it together if the zipper goes on you. I mean, what do you do? Yeah. Yeah, I think the victory salute was the better path that he took. Dave, thanks for another fun week. We will see you next week for the final week of season 3, and we're heading to Surrey Hills for that. And you need a hot cup of tea, a bit of chamomile tea for that voice, Dave. So this is what they'll face next week: Leith Hill, Keith Hill, and Fox Hill. That sounds like a fun little adventure for them. Glad I won't be out on course, but I think it'll be quite a way to finish the season. Actually, quite a difficult one to finish that off. So thank you very much, Dave, and we'll see you next week.
Good job, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.